drive. Basket. Corner. Hubbard with 5. Hubbard leaning, has it rejected. Picked up by Southern, and Southern is going to wrap it up with a dunk on the other end. The Jaguars pull off the upset. The bucket won't count. It doesn't matter. Southern still wins it by a point on a huge comeback in the last 4 minutes.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, joined by Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Of course, Charles Edmond will join us. Coach Van Pettaway will talk some NCAA college basketball. Also, Willa Brown joins us on today's show. And then last but not least, BJ Jones of Inside HBCU Football. As you saw, Southern University, and that'll just lead me right into what's trending. Southern University, huge matchup, a huge victory in non-conference against Mississippi State, the 21st ranked team in the country. The Jaguars get it done, 60-59. Also, UAPB women with a big win over SMU, 78-76. So in basketball, as Coach Pettaway said last week, they're getting it done. They're getting it done, and of course, against some top competition. Here's what's else trending here on the Carlos Brown Show. Southern University football search. Oh my goodness, it continues. I want to talk about that. I'm gonna have to give one of my speeches again about search and breaking stories and news. I'll tell you about that in a second. Also, congratulations to FAMU, the 2023 SWAC football champions. They defeated Prairie View A&M 35-14. Charles, it wasn't even close, in my humble opinion, although you said it. You had FAMU winning it, but you thought it would be much closer. Without a doubt, no debate, no discussion. FAMU was the most consistent football team. They proved to be the best football team in the conference, and now they will go on to face Howard University in the Celebration Bowl, and BJ Jones will break that down for us. So that's simply what's trending. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning here in Denton, Texas. We're at 2:00. The Lady Braves. We hope we can add the Lady Braves name to that list of SWAC teams winning big out of conference games. We're playing North Texas. They're really good. They're 8-1. They've beaten Grambling and UAPB. So hopefully the Lady Braves can continue to get things going. They won 2 in a row. This team's won 5 in a row. So hopefully here in Denton we can make some news here of our own.
It'll be nice to talk about it next week and add it to that list of big non-conference matchups. And speaking of basketball, of course, Southern over Mississippi State, we saw the highlight 60-59. Jaguars were down by 12, 59-48. And they go on a 12-0 run, leading the way to Ron Joseph with 27 points, Brandon Davis with 12 points. And, you know, now they're going to start their home opener against Southeastern today and Louisiana Christian on the women's side, a doubleheader. Action starts at 3 p.m. With that being said, Southern University in basketball, 2-6. But their two biggest victories have been against one, UNLV, and then Mississippi State. So it just gets you really anxious to see what will happen once conference play starts. And then also, still a 2-6 record. But guess what? They have been able to pull off some big victories. So hats off to Coach Johnson. I sent him a text message, just keep grinding. That's what you look at to improve. Every game you go and step out on the court, you want to improve. No matter what the sport is, if I can see where you're improving and getting things done, then that really helps out the whole mental makeup of the basketball teams. Now, with the Southern University football search, and here's where I'm at with this. You have a lot of information going out, coming out, many different websites, different names are being put out there. I just try to get my focus on being right first, not to be first with information. Look, I broke a story with the Celebration Bowl coming out, and I did that. But I also check my sources, and once again, I like to be right. I'm not, I'm not sold on or having a big ego about things being the first to break stories. With Southern University football search, I just kind of went to the source, and so some of the things that are reporting out there, it's down to one or two people. If you want to look at a reference, Jim Kleinpeter has an article that he's, I guess, sat down with Coach Banks and did an interview, and we'll get a little bit into that pieces of that article. But I just kind of wanted to say that. Also, whoever is selected, I'm going to give them the support. I'm going to support the hire. Now, I'll have to put an asterisk by that. If it's a celebrity coach, and I've heard names, and other schools have, quote unquote, have interviewed those type of names, those big names, i.e. Ed Reed, you see that name, then I, in good conscience, cannot support that. But I can also support an assistant coach who has paid the price. And I try to be consistent. Charles, I've said, there are a lot of assistant coaches that have paid the price, and we always tell them to do the right thing, and they want an opportunity, right? I can support an assistant coach who moves up and is chosen to be head coach as well. It's got to be a good fit. It's got to be the right timing for all of this. And everybody just need to bring it down just a little bit. I understand, the recruiting is open. The transfer portal is open. You want to coach as ASAP. But I will say this. I'd rather have the right fit and the right hire than focusing on you got to get it done quick. Because sometimes when you get it done quickly, you can make a mistake. So, Charles, I just wanted to say that, but it is just interesting. The phone is nonstop with people wanting. I understand the information about who's going to be the next football coach at Southern University.
Yep, and look, everybody is now in this social media world. Everybody is a reporter. You read some of these posts. Breaking news. I got breaking news. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you have to take that with a grain of salt. Everyone is you got more people embedded in these situations now than you've had in the past. So everyone's got their little nugget of information and everyone wants to share it, whether it's correct or not. I will say there's only just in my own experience, there's only a handful of folks, and I've said this, there's only a handful of people that really know what's going on. Only a handful. You and I have been in this thing a minute or two. We have sources, solid, credible, that we can pick up the phone and contact, and we can kind of piece together what's going on. But there's only a handful of us out there that really are. A lot of people say they are. They're not. I mean, that's just reality. They're just not. And so you just have to take it for what it's worth. And I agree with you. You have to take a deep breath, check your sources. And if you're the third or fourth and you got it right, that's better than being the first and getting it wrong. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen how when it gets wrong, it goes sideways fast. And those individuals that got it wrong have to eat crow. And that's not what they want. That's not what we want. And so I think that's just where we are on it. A lot of information out there as far as Alcorn and Coach McNair and his situation. Coach McNair is under contract until the end of the month. And
Mhm.
Coach McNair is out recruiting right now. We have recruits on campus right now. I'll be talking with our wide receiver coach at halftime of the women's game. Coach McNair has been in Kansas, the junior college championships. He's been up in Hutchinson, Kansas. So Coach McNair is still the head coach. I know there's negotiations going on. I know at my guess is that will have another contract. I think right now you got negotiations taking place behind the scenes. You know, the negotiations always are back and forth, but we have a little time to get that nailed down. I know everyone would like to see that happen for those who are in the McNair camp. I know many are in the McNair camp. Others would like to see a change, and others would like to support McNair regardless of how it happens, because they just like Fred McNair. So that's the information out there as far as Alcorn is concerned. Nothing official on our assistants that allegedly have been let go. And then Grambling's got a whole nother thing going on. You got a committee. Doug Williams is a part of that. You got former players. You know, who knows how that thing's going to go. And I agree that something needs to happen, though. Even though you want to get the hire right, you got recruits that are interested and they want to know who the head coach is going to be. And so you're going to lose out on some of that. You are. But at the same time, you want to make the right hire. So it's kind of a delicate balancing act on all sides, from the players that are interested, from the coaches, administrations. It's just a delicate time. Even at Texas Southern, they're looking for a coach. You've heard names out there. The big fish that a lot of people are talking about, Coach Berry, looks like he's going to South Carolina State. So that name's off the board. And so now, where do you go from here? If you were looking to hire him, he's off the board, it looks like. So where do you go? You got to make the right hire. You got time, but you don't have a lot of time. Signing day's coming up in 6 weeks? So, you know, things are going to start speeding up here, especially with the holidays coming up and all the recruiting and the transfer portal.
Well, you will have an early signing period, and then traditionally you still have the February the 4th. Wow. Can we go back to EA? Well, I can look it up. He basically asks, Carlos, please answer this. Why would you fire a coach after 2 years if you didn't have someone in place and ready to go? That is a very good question, because if Coach Banks kind of had an inkling and an idea of things were not going right with Coach Dooley, you would think that, yes, he would have started initiating a plan way before the announcement that Coach Dooley would not be retained and will be bought out of his contract. You would think so. You would think so. And so, with that being said, let me go to part of the article, and this is a contributing writer, Jim Kleinpeter, who's been a guest on this show. Here's a quote from Banks. We have 5 to 7 candidates to be narrowed down in the next 48 hours that have a lot of different looking resumes, but bring some attractions to the job, Banks says. Between now and Thursday, based on the timeline I put in place. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of fire engines and stuff going on. Do I need to pause the show and go outside and look? No, I won't. But Banks has kept the search cloaked in secrecy, although some names rumored to be involved include Benedict coach and former Southern offensive coordinator Chennis Berry, former Tulane head coach and Saints assistant Curtis Johnson, and Bethune-Cookman assistant DJ McCarthy. Now, we know Chennis Berry, all reports, will be at South Carolina State. I predicted that would be the move for Chennis Berry. DJ McCarthy, I know of him being an assistant coach at LSU. I know he's very interested in the job. Very interested in the job. And then Curtis Johnson. And other media outlets had reported that it's down to those two individuals. But now, contrary to what Coach Banks said, it's 5 to 7 candidates. And he wants to narrow it down and by next Thursday. Okay. So there's also reports about the interim coach reportedly being the next head coach. I went to the source. That is not the case. So once again, you got from A to Z different articles out there. Different people are saying this is a done deal. Let's just wait and see what happens. And when it is official, I'll know, Charles. I really will. And then I'll be comfortable in reporting that. Once again, I'm not concerned about being, the first for breaking news. Want to get it right.
Mhm.
You want to get it right. So with that being said, it looks like Coach Banks and look, they've probably reached out to those names I mentioned, and it didn't work out. Now, if you go a little bit into the article a little bit more, he made reference to a lot of interest to the job. I knew that was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
But some, and he kind of referenced in the article, are looking for Power 5 money. And quite honestly, in my humble opinion, Southern can't go that route. So that will knock out some of the names mentioned. Because if you look at it, Charles, and I said this before the show, if you think about it, if you got somebody that's making $500,000 or $600,000, or say $700,000, that would be a tremendous pay cut
Mhm.
to come down and take a job. And let's say, we'll give a ballpark figure. Southern's probably, Coach Dooley made $310,000, so you're probably looking at $250 to $350. Now, I'm just saying that range. So I think that will knock out some potential guys. However, if someone just wants to be a head coach and they will overlook a pay grade if they're averaging, over that amount that I just stated, it won't be many of those coaches that will do that. So I think then maybe you look at the next criteria of assistant coaches that have paid their dues and would just like an opportunity. And I've said on this show all the time, I will back anybody who's went through the process and just need an opportunity to prove themselves. So Coach Banks and committee, because I know it's a committee as well, they've got to get it right. They've got to nail it. And if they don't, and when would you consider if they don't get it right? Because if you hire somebody, you still have to give them a time to build the program up. But then ultimately it's going to fall back. Coach Banks is going to be the out front guy. It's going to all fall back on him, whether you agree with that or not. So that's kind of where you stand at as with this football hire. Maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We shall see. But I will support again whoever is. The lights went out on you, Charles.
They have motion lights in here, and the guy was trying to find the little portal to be able to disengage that to keep the lights on. They're going to come back on here in just a second. I was trying to find it myself. He left and didn't come back, so that's why I turned the camera off to try to find it myself. He disappeared. So I apologize for that here. I'm in their media room, by the way. This is where the head coach will be sitting after the game. So they gave me access to that.
Yeah, well, no problem. No problem.
But I will say this. I don't think it's going to be someone that's from a Power 5 that's going to take a pay cut financially to do this. I don't think it's going to be that. I do think it's going to be more on the lines of an assistant who's not making the 300,000 plus that would take a chance and take that opportunity. I'm just interested to see what the salary is going to be like for the next head coach. You said Dooley made 309. I wonder 310. I wonder what the next salary is going to look like. 330, 350. I don't know.
I gave you a range, 250. It depends on
experience.
Yeah. Well, put it this way. I may want I'll just use a car, for example. I may want to Escalade, but my budget may say, no, I can't afford that. So I look at what I can afford, and then within that, I talk to different potential coaches, and then you look at assistant coaches. How many times we've talked about position coaches? They deserve to be paid.
Yeah.
And so that comes out of the overall budget. So back to what EA asked me, all of this should have been taken into account when you're going to execute the plan. And plus, you're still paying out Coach Dooley, and I'm sure they're negotiating that. So with that being said, I know it's urgency. Everyone is saying, look, you got to make a hire quickly. Recruiting, transfer portal is open. I still contend that you got to get it right first. And if it takes a little extra time, so be it. And I know people may disagree with that. They want a decision quickly, but it's got to be the right decision.
Well, I mean, I do agree with the question that when you make determination like it was with Coach Dooley when it happened, the assumption is that you got people already lined up, ready to go. And just like at Tulane, Fritz leaves to go to Houston in 3 days, they got a new head coach in place in 3 or 4 days. That's kind of what we would like to see happen, but that just typically doesn't happen at our levels. It's just not. You have committees, you got administrations, presidents who want to get their hands on it. And I think Dr. Cavill brought it up last week. Ultimately, the president has to sign off on anything that happens. The president has, and there's some schools in this conference in which a football coach is a direct hire of the president. I do know that for a fact. And there's a school in this conference that has had that happen. Despite the AD and all that, the president wants Charles Edmond as the head coach. I want Charles Edmond. Go get Charles Edmond. That's it. So that has happened too. So you have that dynamic going on. As far as who's involved, is the AD hired? Ultimately, the president has to sign off on it. All those things are in play there. But I think that for Southern University, I'm interested in the financial piece. How much is the next coach going to make? If it's an assistant coach, you cut back on the salary a little bit. If he wants more money for staff, as you've talked about many a time, which is true, do you cut back on the coach's salary to be able to fit in the assistant coach's salaries? That's the art of negotiation. And we'll see how that goes. But I don't see a coach that's coached at a Power 5, like Mickey Joseph, for example. Mickey Joseph was at Alcorn. Mickey Joseph was at LSU. You've heard his name bantied about. I know Mickey Joseph. Would that be an opportunity? I know his name's not mentioned. You didn't mention his name, but with Mickey Joseph, would that be an opportunity for Mickey Joseph, considering what he was at LSU, to take an opportunity there? Louisiana guy and all that. And I don't know what that would look like, but Southern pays really good money. There are 5 schools in this league that make over $300,000 for their football coach. Southern's one of those. Grambling's another. And so, Texas Southern's another. And so it's good salaries, good pay. The question is, for the next coach, will it continue to be that? Will it be a little bit more? And that's why I was asking the question, because typically in these cases, the coach's salary is an upgrade from the previous coach. In most cases, not all, but in most cases, it's an upgrade. It's a little bit more money. So is Southern prepared? Is Grambling prepared to upgrade that salary and upgrade facilities and travel and budgets to get the coach that you want? That's the kind of thing that I've always heard, because, coaches want more than the previous coach. They've done their homework too. So that's kind of what I'm interested in terms of these coaches and what they get, and to make sure, because you want to get the stuff on the front end, Carlos. I've heard this so many a time. A coach that comes in this conference, hey, I've heard the phrase, you better get what you can get on the front end, because when things start to fall apart, if you're not winning, you're not going to get nearly as much. You're kind of on that thin line. So you want to get what you can get on the front end of these contracts. And I think that's the other part of negotiation you got to look at.
Well, and if you kind of look at it, how successful has it been in most cases for those who have gotten paid a good bit of money? How has it worked out? I'm asking you, Charles. How has it has it panned out? In some cases,
Deion Sanders is one.
That's one.
That's one.
Okay.
Anybody else? Jay Hobson coming in year one, hired on Memorial Day. That's one.
Wait a minute. What? Let me be more specific. As far as how much they were getting paid, I don't think Jay Hobson was. And correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong. Was he, when he was hired, was he the top guy as far as salary wise in the conference?
Not as far as salary, but he was making more than the previous coach.
Okay, well, I guess that's what I'm saying. So, Coach Sanders is one. Hugh Jackson, although we don't want to get in, he only had 2 years, but anyway, what, 400,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Coach Dooley, 310,000, 2 years.
Was he making more than the previous coach at Southern?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because if we can go back and look at Coach Oden's when he first started, I think it was 140,000.
Mm.
But my thing is, we've seen, and I know this gonna kind of sound weird, like maybe you have not really been successful. You could, and maybe out there in the chat, they're going at it, and I appreciate it. Can you tell me somebody who got top dollar? Now we can go back a little further, and see. You could probably put Coach Richardson in the case. He was getting top money at that time.
Willie Simmons at Prairie View,
and he was successful.
Willie Simmons at Prairie View.
Mm-hmm. What about him?
I mean, his salary compared to the previous coach. I don't know. I have to look at it, but I think Willie Simmons, when he left Alcorn to take over the Prairie View job, I think his salary was, at the time when he took the PVU job, probably one of the top 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm saying, you would think the more that the head coaches have made, you would have almost complete 90% success, but
no.
but you haven't.
No,
but you haven't. Okay, and so again, it goes back to me. Yeah, I see the comments. If you win, they're gonna come. Yeah, I don't necessarily think throwing a whole lot of money, unless you look at the whole entitled picture with position coaches and coordinators, I don't think it's a slam dunk that it's going to be successful. Now, can we throw Eddie George in there at Tennessee State? He's had some success. Would you agree?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just think that you don't know what the results are going to be like. You hope that you hit a grand slam, but you don't know if you have. You do all your vetting, you do all your homework, you do everything you can to turn over every stone and rock to try to get the best possible candidate. It doesn't guarantee anything, but you still have to pay. And the question is, what do you pay? Are we sitting here saying that 5 coaches in this conference are making over $300,000 a year? Are we sitting here saying that these coaches are overpaid? Based on the results, McKinney was let go after 5 years. Sanders leaves to go to Colorado. Hugh Jackson is out. Dooley is out. Willie Simmons has earned every bit of it. I mean, I'm sure he's going to get more and more checks. You know, every time you look up an off season, he's holding up a check from the Miami chapter, 100,000, 50,000, 75,000, whatever. He's going to get a lot more of that, I'm sure, regardless of Celebration Bowl win or not. We hope we can get it done and be the second conference team to do it. But are we sitting here talking around the fact that these coaches are making way too much money for our taste, and that we need to back off of it a little bit to be able to take care of the other stuff, the assistants, which I agree, and you agree as well, that they're underpaid? Are we sitting here saying that without saying that? Are we sitting here saying these coaches, the top tier, are making way too much for a lot of folks' tastes? If you win, people will come, regardless of whether you're making $150,000 or $450,000. If they win at Valley, regardless of Coach Wade's salary, they're going to show up at Rice Todd Stadium. But are we sitting here saying, without saying, that these coaches are making way too much money at the top tier of this conference?
All I can say is this: if you want to compare and contrast, at one point the coaches in the SWAC were paid better than their peers in the Southland. And then head-to-head competition, and then there's other things to consider, resources and what have you. But they were not successful. Some coaches have earned their salary based on what is your criteria: wins, helping student athletes graduate, bring money into the program. That's the question that I guess people may give you different answers on. But I look at what's going on now in the conference. Yeah, some have really earned it. Some of our schools don't have the resources. Everybody's not on the same plane as far as resources and what they can do. But what you can do is what you can do. If you can't go out and afford that $500,000-$600,000, I mean, I don't even know why I'm saying that. That is kind of like really way out for schools in our conference to be able to pay that kind of money. And then you look at assistant, then you look at resources, recruiting budgets. It just doesn't fit.
Well, if you look at a school like Florida A&M, let's just say, hey, they're one step away from hitting the Grand Slam. Next week, if Willie Simmons hoists that Celebration Bowl trophy and become the second team to win the Celebration Bowl, second SWAC team, trust me, considering they had a good pay, well, the weather held it up, but they had a sellout last week at Bragg. You get the $1 million payday from Celebration. He's making over $3 million. My guess is, and there may be incentives in his contract that tie a lot of money up to it. But if he wins that Celebration Bowl next week, don't you think that he could be pushing close to $4 million? And the other question is, will that elevate the other 4 schools in terms of just being competitive, have a competitive salary? Now, we don't talk about it that much, but you got 5 schools doing it. Does it elevate the mid-tier? Does it elevate the bottom tier? Now, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. And I think that's just the bottom line there. But if you want to be competitive, you have a competitive product, salary is a part of it. And so I'm just wondering, as much as these salaries, they've gone up over the last few years, will they continue to go up, especially considering the price of doing business? And I think for Southern, that has to be a part of it. If you get a coach that I have previous head coach, then yeah, I think the price tag goes up. If you get an assistant and this is his first head coaching job, you can kind of negotiate a little bit towards Southern's end of it and maybe keep the salary as is, have a little bit more money for your assistants and all that. So that's just the art of negotiation. But the price tag is going up, Carlos. And the question is, can we continue to pay the higher price tag as these coaches, you hope, become more successful? Willie Simmons is a classic example. You could start with him because they're playing for the Celebration Bowl next week. His salary is probably going to go up with a new AD and everything he's done. He's been a great ambassador for that program. When the program was having its issues with the eligibility in the North Carolina game, he stood tall, stood firm, and he never wavered off of who he was. And you see where they are now. So I'm just saying, is this just an anomaly what FAMU's doing? Is this an outlier could be for the other schools? Because these price tags are going up, Carlos. And I just think the question is, can we afford to do it long term? Salaries are not going down, they're going up. And so we've got some decisions to make, I think, administratively, athletic-wise, in terms of resources and everything, because coaches are going to want more. They understand that more is demanded on them on the field. They understand that. But then you got to get the salaries on the front end. So that's kind of where I am with it. I like to see coaches get paid. I like to see everybody get paid. I know that's not always the case. But when you're talking about football being the leader in terms of financially and athletics, you want to take care of your people football-wise. You want to take care of everybody if you can. But football kind of drives the wheel for everyone else in athletics. So you want to take care of your coaches, because they're going to take care of the rest of the athletic program financially in most cases.
Well, the big question is, can you afford to do that? That's the big question. And everybody's not equally yoked. They're not. You know, you can't expect Mississippi Valley State to have compete and have the resources, say like FAMU. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
In every conference, they have the haves, then the have-nots in the conference. You can look at even the SEC. You got Vanderbilt, then you got Texas and Texas A&M. The price of competing, resources, everything's going up. I understand that, but we're not on the even keel, not even in this conference.
Right.
And back to Coach Dooley. Now, I can only speak for myself. Let's say the next coach. Let's say as an administration. And by the way, someone just texted me and said, no, Banks is not making this call. You know, I had him on the show a couple of times, and he said he had the opportunity to make a direct hire. Well, in this case, that's not the case. That's not the case. So with that being said, I think you look at what you can afford. You know what your budget is. Charles, you know what your budget is at your house. You know what you can do and what you can do. Now, as far as Southern University, I said 250 to 350,000. That's just a prediction from me, but that may not be the case as far as what they can do. But we will see. We will see, and it will go back to Coach Banks is the guy out front, and if it doesn't go well, that's who's going to take the blunt of all of this.
Let me ask you a question, Carlos, because you know this more so because you're firmly connected. So with the buyout of Coach Dooley and the assistants, was that from Southern University or was that from big money donors and boosters? Who
don't know.
Okay.
Don't know. I don't want to say or speculate. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
But apparently that part of it's going to be taken care of.
Right. Well,
so
the reason why I asked that question is because you got two directions on that. All right. So if the university is paying that, then they're tied to that. But if outside businesses and donors and boosters are paying it, then you still have the flexibility from the other side of the fence to do what you need to do administratively from the university side of the house. So that's what I'm, you've already got one coach tied up and assistants tied up in terms of salary and buyouts. Mm-hmm. If this thing goes sideways, then you got to make a decision. And if you pull the plug quickly, and we've seen 2 or 3 coaches get let go after 2 years, if things go sideways quickly, then you decide, you want to part ways again in a few years, then that buyout has to happen. And who's going to take care of that? And so now,
well, Charles, you're putting the cart before.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of just resources. I mean, this ties up resources too. In terms of, money has been paid out. That's done. But I guess I'm a little skittish because of what we've seen. And if we're at a pace where you got to win quickly in 2 years, 2.5, if things go sour, then some more plugs are going to get pulled, and now all of a sudden you're buying out more coaches, and that's more resources tied up. So that's kind of what I'm now. If coaches get let go after 3 or 4, then we're back to that what we kind of used to. But what we've just seen here over the last few weeks tells me, and we've talked about it, like the win now mentality. Are you going to get 3 years now in this conference? Are you going to get that, even though you got a 4-year deal? 3 + 1, are you going to get that if things go sour? And so that's where I am on it because of just what has happened. If this is the new trend, okay, let's go.
Well, if you win, then I'm not trying to be a butt about this, but if you win, that is something you won't have to worry about. Everyone looks at the 2 years. I can't speak for Grambling State. Southern University, we saw this happen this time, but have we seen this over a 20-year period? You know, I think somebody brought up Coach Mitchell. He didn't fulfill out his contract from his side, but we haven't really seen that in every aspect. So somebody gets let go after 2 years. It has to be something really extraordinary, something inside that has happened. We talked about the transfer portal. We talked about you got to win now. That's the climate per se in college athletics. We talk about amateurism. Things are changing as we speak. The collegiate scene, college athletic scene, is not the way it was in the 90s.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to win now. So I know we want to focus on, well, what if he doesn't win in 2 years? Well, what if he does win in 2 years?
No, it's a no-brainer then. It's a no-brainer at that point. But all I'm saying is that there's this acclimation period, just like on any job. There's an acclimation period in which you have to get in and hit the ground now sprinting and not running. And that doesn't always take place. I mean, I'm just a realist. I mean, I look at myself 30 years ago, how long it took me to get acclimated to Alcorn State University. It took me a long time. And I thank the administration for being patient with me. And that's 30 years ago with a president at the time who was very quick with the hook. All right. And so now we're coming back to it in an athletic realm, the pressure to win right now. And you've got to hit the ground running. You've got players transferring out. Yes, the transfer portal, you can retool that talent, but then you got to get the right coordinators. You got to put all the pieces together to put the system together. That doesn't always happen right away. It does take a little bit of time. And I would say in that second year, what it seems like now is that in that second year, you got to be pointed in the right direction. Whereas I thought in the past, at least in the third year, you would at least be able to see some light if there's any light at all. So it accelerates the process, it shortens the fuse, and it shortens the attitudes because now you got to hit the ground running. And in this division, Carlos, I mean, in the East, it's FAMU and everybody else. In the West, and over the last few years, UAPB's won the West. Of course, Southern University has won the West and Prairie View. So the West is very much up for grabs at this point in time with new coaches.
For now.
For now. I mean, but that's all we can talk about is right now. We don't know what's going to look like 2 or 3 years from now. But for right now, you've got a lot of moving pieces and you want to gain the advantage right now because it's so uncertain at this point in time. Now, in the East, you got Willie Simmons. Who's going to challenge them? Obviously, Jackson State. Can you put Bama State in that third group, in that third team? I don't know. But right now in the West, it's so uncertain, it's so unsettled, and you want to get a stronger foothold. And does that take time? Yeah, but how much time? Does it take 2 years? Does it take 3 years? I think that's the question we have to look at. And right now, the attitude is, right now, you got 2 coaches let go after 2 years. You said that's an anomaly. I'm just looking at the trend right now. And until it changes, I'll just go with the trend right now. 2 years, third year, you got to be looking fairly decent or else you might get the hook.
Well, FAMU in the East for now. You don't think Jackson State's going to try to gain the advantage again? You don't think Alabama State is going to try to move up and get better? Let's bring in Coach Pettaway and Wheeler Brown. Boy, we're going on a 2 years, 2 years, 2 years again, and I just don't think that's the norm. I don't think that's what, just my opinion, I don't think that's what you'll see from here on out, that you'll get 2 years. But anyway, Coach Pettaway.
Good morning.
Good morning. Wheeler Brown, good afternoon to you. How are you guys doing?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, we're going to, Coach Pettaway, we're going to get into some basketball as well. Once again, I just kind of one of the trending stories. Congratulations to FAMU. They won the SWAC football championship. Basketball-wise, Coach Pettaway, you texted me and said you saw the whole game with Southern and Mississippi State, UAPB with some big wins in non-conference, and of course, what we're just talking about somewhat now, Southern University football search still continues. So, with that being said, Coach Pettaway, any thoughts on what we were talking about?
Well, yes, I just think you got to give the process a chance to work. This is not something that you can do overnight because it is a very important hire. And then I see where Grambling might even be getting a search firm and to help them. You just got to be patient. I thought South Carolina State, I thought they reached out and got somebody in their backyard that has proven over the last 2 years that they've been successful. So the other schools involved just got to, and their fans have to be patient and just give the administration a chance to vet the people and make sure that they are getting the right person, the right fit. I do believe that in both cases, in Grambling and at Southern, they got to get it. They got to hit a home run. They got to get it right. They got to get it right this time, or else I think you'll see some people at the top. They'll be losing their jobs, I think. So that's why I think you just got to take your time, be patient. As long as they get it done to where these coaches will have an opportunity to recruit. Because if you prolong the process and they don't get an opportunity to recruit, then that means you giving up a year doing it that way. They got to have an opportunity to bring in their own people because their philosophy might not fit the players that are left. So they got to be able to bring in their own people. So I think all of this takes time, and we just have to be patient.
And sometimes patient is not. I know personally, Coach Pettaway, and I understand what you're saying. That's something that I have to work on. In my personal life, to be patient. That's what I need to do. Wheeler, from the AD perspective, oh boy, and don't you come on here starting that mess. I'm going to tell you now because we text and I understand. That's why I love having Coach Pettaway on, Charles. And
I'm not taking the popular route. Okay, so let's put this out there up front and get it out there. Charles, I was listening to you over the last 20 minutes or so, and I believe that from a salary point of view, I think we've overpaid in some instances where we haven't gotten our money worth. And, I just believe that if the infrastructure is not in place, that has to be in place first and foremost, before we start throwing a whole lot of money at these head coaches. We got to make sure that the assistant coaches pool is up to par. We got to make sure that all the nuts and bolts are tied down, and locker rooms are what they need to be, equipment. I mean, all the little things that need to be taken care of, we need to make sure that those things are taken care of on the front end prior to spending a lot of money on these coaches. I think Hugh Jackson was overpaid drastically. I don't think there's any way in the world that, and I'm just saying this, that we justify paying him $400,000 a year. I mean, HBCU level wise, I mean, I just can't see that. I think 300,000. Whoever we're paying 300,000. I'm thinking, that's an overreach in a lot of instances. But I can understand these coaches getting what they can when they can. I understand that, and like you just said, and in a couple of cases where these guys only got 2 years to get it done and didn't get it done. I mean, they're looking at gravy on the flip side. But I just think that we have to get these things under control. I think outside of Sanders, at Jackson State, and I believe he was making right around 300. I believe if I'm not mistaken, or close to it. I really don't see anybody else that was in that neighborhood that really earned that keep, so to speak. I'm not begrudging them the fact that they got it, because we know that it's fickle, in terms of, our schools and things of that nature. We know that. We know if we can get it, we need to get it. But at the same time, we have to ensure that we're putting the money in the infrastructure. We're putting the monies where they need to be, to make sure that these coaches are going to be successful on the front end. I applaud Coach Barry for taking the South Carolina State job. He and I talk often. I've been a mentor to him probably frequently over the last probably close to 20 years, I guess. And, I thought the South Carolina State job checked off all the boxes for him. He doesn't have to move. He's in the same recruiting area that, South Carolina State recruits in. The wife don't have to leave. They ain't got to pick up and move, so the household should be relatively happy. He got a significant raise in salary. I think while the expectations at South Carolina State are great, they're not overbearing to the point where he's just going to get 2 years to get it done. He'll get the full complement of staff, things of that nature. And regardless of what's happening financially at South Carolina State, they're going to fund football. Football is going to find a way to get the things that they need in order to be successful. And that's going to happen. So I thought, he made a great decision. I know some of the other schools were kind of tugging at him, that sort of thing. But, when you look at the checklist and look at those boxes, I thought South Carolina State checked all the boxes for him. And so I thought ultimately that was a great move. I'm hoping that Travion at Grambling, with his committee that he's put together, I hope he has laid out the guidelines in terms of, exactly what they're looking for, in a head coach, so that the committee has the guidelines necessary as they are looking through resumes and, sending names forward and things of that nature, that, everybody's pretty much on the same page in terms of what we're looking for, and that none of these phantom candidates who don't fit the, who don't
said phantom.
fill, don't sneak in at the last minute, things of that nature. So it's going to be interesting to see what's what. But, the main thing, I preach is patience. Don't feel that you got to rush and get this thing done right now. I mean, you want to be, what's that John Wooden used to say, be quick but don't hurry, or something like that. So don't feel like, you got to make that huge splash to the point where the I's and T's aren't dotted and crossed. Take your time with this thing. And, for the two people we just finished that we're talking about right now, in terms of Grambling and Southern, these are, pretty much do or die type hires for them. So I think it's imperative that, they take the time necessary to get it done. And if it means that, it's kind of putting them behind the 8 ball a little bit, I think it's worth getting behind the 8 ball right now, in order to ensure that you make the right hire and that you get it right this time.
Yeah. Well, a lot said there, Will. I would agree. You got to get it right. You got to get it right. As far as with Southern and Grambling State, Texas Southern still looking to hire, and you hear the different names out there, and I stated in hour number one, get the information right first. Breaking news sometimes is not breaking news or breaking news is not factual. So we'll see how all of that goes. Coach Pettaway.
Yes, sir.
In basketball, tremendous upset, if you can look at it that way. Southern University on the men's side, on the women's side, UAPB. But Southern, not a bad team. Their record's 2-6, but boy, those 2 wins have come against some outstanding opponents.
Right. To 2 wins, 85-71 over UNLV, and then of course 60-59 over Mississippi State. And I think that the big takeaway from these games, Southern led these games from the beginning to the end. Like the Mississippi State game, Mississippi State just closed the lead down at the end. Southern they played well. I thought on the defensive end, they did an outstanding job. And then, of course, when you look at the stats, they shared the basketball. You had 4 or 5 people in double digits, and that's what you got to have when you want to go, when you're on the road and when you want to beat teams like this. And I think Coach Johnson is doing a fantastic job. Even in the games that he's lost, you can still find plenty great things that the team has done. So I think they're headed in the right direction. And then on the women's side, Arkansas Pine Bluff beat SMU 78-76. And then they're in the American Athletic Conference. Southern's Mississippi State is in the SEC. So, last week I tried to just briefly tell you all about some of the conferences that we've had success against. So I think we're going to be in for some great basketball. And at Bethune-Cookman, both the men and the women are doing fairly well. So they may have something to say this year in basketball because they're both playing well. They got some great wins on the women's side. They got some good wins on the men's side. And Bethune-Cookman's been in just about every game that they played. I don't care who they've gone up against. They've been in it. So I just think, and then when you look at it, the teams that we normally see winning these non-conference games haven't scratched the surface yet. You haven't seen anything out of Texas Southern yet. And, we normally see that happening. Alcorn has not hit the mark yet. So, but I just think those are things that will come, that'll happen. All we got to do is just keep playing. And I think that we'll find out that some of the other teams that we are accustomed to seeing win these non-conference games will be able to do it.
Well, I'm going to be facetious here. I guess I can't stand success, and I always picking at Wheeler and Charles. But Wheeler, we've talked about the schedule and how these guarantee games and these money games, and hadn't had a lot of success. Now we're seeing some success, and in previous years, you've seen, some success like a Texas Southern. So with that being said, now when they come back, could this be a negotiating tool for those respective coaches? Say, hey, look, I've had a tough non-conference. At least I'm showing some progress. In Southern case, I've won 2 games that most people didn't think we were going to win. So
I think something
what happens? What happens with that?
It's something that's going to be talked about, Carlos. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But the bottom line is going to be this: Mississippi State ain't playing Southern next year or anymore anytime soon. So you got to look at the fact that when we're having success against some of these Power 5 conferences and some of these some of these big name schools, the likelihood of them giving us a game in the future is really going to become slim and none.
Well, let me be specific, Wheeler. Should they be rewarded? It's probably in the contract already, right? If they have success against, i.e., those teams. But do you come back and say, look, I want to reward you just a little bit more? Maybe it could be a little bit more recruiting money because you were able to go and do that.
I think you're always looking to do that in terms of the little things that the program needs moving forward. You know, if it's like locker room improvements or, you know, like you said, an increase in the recruiting budget or, you know, things of that nature. I think those are things that you look at, you know, as you formulate your mindset in terms of the guarantees. I just think that's something that's ongoing. You know, something that should be happening even if they're not being successful against those particular schools. I think you should be setting aside a few of those dollars for, you know, improvements to the program, that sort of thing. Just little things that are necessary.
Mhm.
And I saw
So,
somebody in your chat
so,
room.
mhm,
I saw somebody in your chat room, Carlos, ask about the first year in terms of the hiring of the new
mhm,
coach.
mhm,
And you know, my philosophy has always been if you hire a guy after the new year,
mhm,
especially when you're talking about football, if you hire him after the new year, you know,
mhm,
year one, you're just looking to see how the program is shaping up.
mhm,
Wins and losses, naturally, they're going to be important. That's why you play the game. But, you know, I want to see the development aspect. I want to
direction.
how the kids react to the coach or coaches. You know, I want to see how they grasp what it is that he's saying. I want to see the discipline aspect. I want to see the, you know, X's and O's aspects. I want to see those things. You know,
Mhm,
those are the things that I'm grading that coach on the first year. Not necessarily how many games he won and lost, you know, but whether or not I can start to see the future with this
mhm,
coach, whether or not I can see the direction that this coach is going, you know, whether or not I can see that he's going to get or have a firm grasp on the program moving forward. Those are the
mhm.
things that I'm grading this guy on, you
Okay.
know. So, I mean, and you
Mhm,
got to look at it like that, you know, simply because if I'm already putting him behind the eight ball because I'm hiring him quote unquote late. When I say late, we're
mhm,
talking about going into the new year and you know the recruiting cycle is almost up, that sort of thing. Then I'm not going to handicap him by saying
mhm,
if you don't win 8 games, you know it's going to be a black mark against you. You know, I'm looking at your
mhm,
development of this program. I'm looking at your winter program in terms of these kids in the weight room. How hard are they
mhm,
working? The drills, the skills. You know, what are we teaching out there? You know, that sort of thing. There are tons of things to grade these coaches on outside of wins and losses, especially early on. And if
Well,
you're not doing that, then you're not
mhm,
doing a good job as an athletic administrator. You know, if
mhm,
you're just placing all this right away, you know, this guy has got to win. He's got to, you know, come out of the blocks, spitting blood, that sort of thing. That's not fair to ball.
well, let
Right,
me.
Carlos.
Uh,
Now,
mhm,
Wheeler has said a lot, right? Let's
mhm,
break down some of this. I want to comment on a couple of things. All right, let's
mhm,
go back to basketball first. He
mhm,
said that the coaches should be receiving some of the guaranteed money for their program.
mhm,
I agree with that 100%. But now, is it actually being done in the SWAC by all schools? The answer
Probably
to
not.
that is no.
Probably no.
Okay, but the expectations at every SWAC school for basketball is the same. They want a winner. All right. These kids are going out playing all these guaranteed games,
mhm,
and they don't. Some of the programs don't have the basic needs. Okay, I hate walking into an arena watching a team and you got kids wearing their own shoes. What is that? You know, is
mhm,
that because they don't have the university is not providing enough funds for them to go out and get shoes for the kids, that kind of stuff. That to me, these are the kind of things that the average fan has no idea that it happens. Some of the average fan, they don't care. All they want to do,
mhm,
they want their team to win, but they don't know what's preventing their team from winning. These are things that they don't know. All right, now I'm going to jump forward to what he was talking about being patient with the football coaches or any coach that you hire. All right, if the athletic director does not go public and say these things, that means that the average fan, they don't know this. The alumni, the fans, they don't know this. So therefore, their expectations are the same. We got to win right now. They don't understand that the guy just missed a recruiting cycle. They don't understand that he was hired late. There's no, in their book, there is no late. When you sign on that dotted line, they're expecting certain results.
Right away.
Right away. Yes, that's my point. And so these are the things. Yeah, Wheeler is saying the right things to us, but the public needs to know that. The fan base needs to know that. The alumni need to know that. And I promise you, all of the schools in this league are not allowing those programs to use that guarantee money. I guarantee you that's not happening now.
Well, I like to ask Wheeler Brown a couple of questions. Okay, so you said if a coach is in your mind, if a coach is hired after January 1st, then the first year you just kind of let it play out. But it appears that of the openings that we've got, I'm just going to take a guess in my own humble opinion. I think Texas Southern, Grambling, and Southern will probably have a coach in place by the end of this month. I'm just going to take a guess. I might be wrong. If that's the case, Wheeler Brown, does that take your qualification away that they've got to hit the ground running if they're hired pre-January 1?
I'm going to say no. Charles. I mean, and I'm not going to say you scratch in year one, but you scratch in year one. If you're doing any hiring, I'm going to say as of today, really. Yeah, what we're the 10th of 9th of December. You ain't getting anything else done the rest of this month of substance. I mean, folk going home for Christmas next week or the week after. So I mean, everything is starting to wind down, for the holidays, that sort of thing. So, you're realistically you're going to hit the ground running, but you're not going to see the same results that you would see if you gotten hired pre-Thanksgiving. So there's no need to even think, from that point of view, but what you want to do is, have your network in place. You want to be, out there on the prowl, trying to see what's out there, that sort of thing. And Coach Pettaway, you are absolutely right. The AD has to get that message out there loud and clear at every opportunity that he or she has to put that out there. This person is coming in year one. This is what I'm looking for in year one. These are the expectations for year one. And yeah, you guys want to win. You want to go to the Celebration Bowl. You want, everything else that goes along with that. Yeah, and I understand that. And if we can do that, that's icing on the cake, even though I like to call it the kiss of death. Yeah, because if you bring that to me right away, while I, as an administrator, is smart enough to understand that this may be an anomaly, you, the fan, want this each and every time, and you will accept nothing less. So I mean, a lot of times, it's better to come in like Eddie George did, 2 and whatever, and go up to 3 and whatever. And now he's 6 and 5, and everybody's talking about what a great job he's done and all this sort of thing. If he'd have came in and won the OVC year 1 and then won 3 games in year 2, I guarantee you he'd be out in the street at year 3. So I mean, it is what it is on that one. But no, Charles, I wouldn't. I understand that. Anybody that's hired right now, is really behind the 8 ball in terms of the recruiting cycle, that sort of thing. You're hoping for the best, but you understanding that it's going to be difficult, but I want them to concentrate on what's here, selling himself to the kids that are here, getting their buy-in in terms of that weight room, in terms of those mat drills and all that sort of thing and stuff. What is it that I can do to make these kids better that are here, right now? Because to me, as I'm looking at that particular coach, that's how I'm grading him. Did these kids get bigger, faster, stronger? Did they get better, skill-wise and otherwise? Are they going to class? Is the discipline what I envision it to be? Those are the things that at the end of the year, come next year, as I sit down and talk with the coach and we go over what's transpired that year, those are the things that I'm putting out there on the plate in terms of, coach, you get this grade in this area, this grade in that area, that sort of thing. And, I'm expecting you to come up with a plan moving forward, in terms of how we're going to improve on these things, so forth and so on. And then we're going to go ahead and get it from there.
Well, and that's interesting what you're saying, Willard. So my question would be, what would have had to happen in year 2? Because you look at it, well, record-wise, you went down from year 1. According to you, your expectations, you won the Western Division. Do we have to get into that discussion again? Whether you backed in, fortunate is the word I would use. But what would, in your mind, what would happen to make you in year 2, if all of you are, your emphasis on year 2, I don't get hung up on that, but I understand what you're saying. What would have happened to make an AD say we're moving on in year 2? Something drastic had to happen.
Go ahead. I would have to have been dissatisfied with his plan moving forward.
Oh, okay.
He would.
That's kind of what I thought was said. Okay.
Obviously, he would not have said the things that I needed to hear in terms of the plans for the program moving forward. If I thought there were certain aspects, certain areas that needed to be improved upon, and he thought that everything was hunky-dory, and I knew that everything wasn't hunky-dory, that we were having problems in particular areas that needed to be addressed, and needed to be addressed as quickly as possible, that sort of thing. But he thought that everything was okay, and we could not come to a meeting of the minds in terms of the solid direction of the program. If he could not explain to me in no uncertain terms the vision of the program, what is his expectations, if the disciplinary problems that you've been speaking of has transpired from year to year, if it's done nothing but gotten worse, over the past 2 years, that sort of thing. Those would be reasons for me to say, well, maybe we might need to go in a different direction on this thing. But Carlos, at the same time,
no buts. Stop it right there, Will. No buts.
Gotta look at the fact that the hire was ballyhooed and all that sort of thing and stuff, and there were big expectations with that. So I want to make sure that I'm giving him every opportunity to right the ship verbally and orally and written wise. Give me the plan. Let's both agree on the plan and agree on the direction. But if you telling me everything's okay, there's nothing wrong, and I'm sitting here and I'm traveling with you guys. I'm in practice on the regular, that sort of thing. I'm at every game on the sideline. I see, the issues and the concerns, that sort of thing. I don't care if you want to replace the quarterback or not. That's not that's not under my purview. I'm not the coach. You're the coach. Obviously, you see something that's there. But if I see all these penalties and guys being disruptive and things just not being indicative of what our football program should be, and I call you on it, and not only do you not see it, but you don't have a plan to address it, you think everything's okay, then I have to take a step back and kind of gather myself and determine whether or not we're going to be able to move forward as things are in their current state. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me, Coach Pettaway. I thought I heard that before, but
Yep.
When you the emphasis on, we'll move on.
It's more to it than just wins and losses.
Right.
It's the other intangibles. Yeah, it's the other intangibles.
Well, Carlos, I like to ask Coach Pettaway a question too. We was talking about the basketball piece. There's an article that came out about the NIT. That's very concerning to me, that the NIT has changed the criteria in terms of selecting teams for the NIT, especially on the lower tier. Now, for the SWAC, if you win the regular season, if you don't win the tournament, you're still going to the NIT in the past. But the NIT committee has come out and said that they are changing the criteria and really tightening it for us. In the article, the MEAC commissioner came out and said they were not informed of these decisions. They weren't in the room. And I'm kind of concerned because we talked about scheduling. It seems like, Coach Pettaway, I don't know if if you understood how all that's going to happen, but I'm concerned about not only these guarantee games, but I'm also concerned about the fact that we might have to win some of these games. Now, we're doing it this year because they're looking at these quad 1 and quad 2 wins. Like if you go in 1-11 going into conference and you win the SWAC, you win the regular season, you're going to, in years past, you're going to the NIT, even if you don't win the SWAC tournament. But it seems like they've tightened that up now, and I'm kind of concerned about that because even though we've got more wins, there's still some teams like Alcorn who's struggled to win a game. Landon Bussey's going to his home state of Maryland Tuesday. I'll be there for that. We take on Maryland. Got a tough schedule the rest of the way. Is that concerning as far as SWAC teams playing in the postseason? I mean, whether it's the NCAA tournament or the NIT, I like to see the best of both worlds, but it sounds like we're being squeezed here. Unless we start winning some of these games, these guarantee games, we got to not only play them financially, but it seems to me, I might be wrong here, but it seems like we got to win some of these quad 1 and quad 2 games too in order to impress the NIT committee to get an NIT bid, because it seems like now there's no guarantee that the MEAC representative or the SWAC representative will get there.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Charles. It's going to come down to scheduling, how we schedule, and then you're right. We got to win some of these games, and that makes it even tougher on us. And the other piece to this too, now, Charles, we got to wait to see with the expansion of the NC2A tournament. We got to see how they're going to do that, because there might be a piece in there where they're going to allow your regular season champion to go ahead and get in, even if they lose in the tournament.
What? Wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. Regular season, Coach Pettaway?
So I'm serious. So see that we just got to wait to see. We got to see if it's going to balance itself out, because if they give your conference champion a leg up in going into the NC2A tournament, then that will help us. But I'm like you, Charles. Right now we don't know. But the only way to overcome any of this, we need to win some of these games. That means that's the bottom line. You got to win some of these games, and we cannot come into conference play and whatever. You can't do that. You got to win some of these games. And not only do you have to win the quad games, I think there's going to be more emphasis put on regional play too, where you got to win in conferences like the Southland, You got to beat the OVC. I don't think it should be, the criteria should be that it's all Power 5 schools that you have to beat. I just think you should be able to come down and beat some OVC schools, beat some ASUN schools, the WAC. That I think that should be part of the criteria, and that's what we had to push for.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the kind of thing when I was on the committees, that's what I try to open their eyes up to. I say, fellas, we're talking apples and oranges now. When you guys spend more on your basketball program than some of us spend on our whole athletic department. I say, so you all have to help us. That's the only way it's going to get done. They have to recognize the shortcomings, the financial shortcomings of conferences like the SWAC, and they have to make adjustments.
Well, I heard something. Why does it get back to how we have to schedule smartly? Coach Pettaway, I think you've said it. We've got the AD perspective. Wheeler said, well, we should have some balance, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Yeah. I'm going back to the ADs because, and I've had some on that said, look, they're going to continue to schedule those money games first and foremost. Yeah. They're going to do it, and I'll be dead and gone, and I'll come back in my spirit in 20, 40, 50 years from now. I think it'll still be the same way. They're going to schedule those type of games.
And the key is, Carlos, how do you replace that money? You got to have it. How do you replace those dollars? You got to have it. Somehow you got to have it.
Yeah, but who's
responsible? And what expense, though? And whose expense?
And I
but wait a minute, whose responsibility is to get
away? I understand. I understand what you're saying. Nobody understands that better than me. But until there's a formula or something, that's out there that can help replace, this revenue in some way, shape, or form, you really don't have much of a choice. I mean, you don't have to play a gazillion of them. You can cut down on them, that sort of thing. But to try to cut them out in its entirety, is just not going to be feasible. Especially when you got 15, 16 programs and you trying to spread the wealth around and trying to make sure soccer got this and softball got that and baseball got some of that sort of thing. I mean, it's just,
how about some balance?
From an AD.
I understand that. This is what I would propose to an AD. I will match your fundraising efforts through my schedule. In other words, what you bring in, I'll match it.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You ain't gonna have many takers. You won't have many takers, Carlos. You ain't got to worry about that. You won't have many takers. You won't have, because they don't fundraise. They use basketball as a fundraiser. They go out, they pimp those kids, send them out there for slaughter. And then here's the thing: the kids don't benefit from it. They don't get enough money coming back to their own basketball program. That's my issue. If we're going to play the games, make sure the kids are taken care of.
Texas Southern does it.
Cost of living. I mean, cost of attendance. I'm sorry, not living. Cost of attendance. Well, let me play a game for that. Give it back to the kids. They're the ones going out earning this money. They're not even looking out for the kids.
Wheeler, you said that it did need to have some balance in that schedule. So you're still sticking with that, right?
I'm still sticking with that.
Okay, I thought you had wavered a little bit.
You don't play 10 or 11 of those games. Maybe you play 5. Maybe you play 6. You cut down, 4 or 5 or maybe 6 at the most. You cut down on that amount. But to say that we just need to cut them out in its entirety, that sort of thing. For a lot of our programs, they just can't do it. Not and keep some of these other sports afloat.
Well, no, I understand that part.
From an administrative perspective, you have got to look at it from that point of view. I mean, you taking into account, that the kids get their heads beat in and all that sort of thing. Don't think no AD doesn't recognize and realize that, because we all do. Even the most cold-hearted ones understand, the fact that the kids are getting beat up, the program getting beat up, that sort of thing. And if there was more money out there from a fundraising point of view, 90% of the ADs will be out there trying to scramble to get it, that sort of thing. But I think that the infrastructure mechanism for fundraising for a lot of our schools is inadequate. And if we just depend on the AD to go out there and knock on everybody's door, that sort of thing, then he or she is not able to ensure that the ship at home is being run the way that it needs to be run. I think all of our schools need to put funding into the infrastructure of fundraising.
Yeah.
They need to hire that associate AD, for affairs, that sort of thing. That person who's responsible for going out there and beating on the doors. I used to tell people all the time, Carlos, I'm a closer. I want the associate AD for external affairs to come up to me and say, Will, I need for you to make this presentation over at IBM on Thursday at 2 o'clock, explain to them the direction of the programs and all that sort of thing. I don't need for them to say, Will, you need to go knock on the door at IBM to try to set up an appointment or to see if they're interested in funding our institution, that sort of thing. I need somebody that's going to be out there
set the groundwork.
Doing that groundwork, and then call me. I'm Mariano Rivera, whoever that guy is. I'm coming tonight. 2 hours. I'm locking this thing down. I'm gonna go in here and knock it out the park.
All right, Willie, let me ask you something. What's the good formula? What's a good formula for a basketball program? In your estimation, I'm going out. I'm going to raise 480. No, I'm a round number, $500,000 through game guarantees. Willa, how much of that? What percentage of that would you allow to go back to the basketball program?
I'm gonna say probably 80, 90,000.
Wait a minute.
Back to the program.
Okay, out of 500,000.
Out of 500,000.
Where's my mathematicians at? What percentage?
Well, and I'm gonna say this. I'm saying this also, Carlos. What I'm expecting is that my expenses for going to play these games is coming out of that also. So out of the 500,000 that I'm getting in terms of guarantee, you're probably going to knock off 80,000 right off the bat in terms of transportation, hotels, all meals, all that sort of thing. So you're going to knock that right off the bat.
Right.
So you're talking about 420 right then. Okay. And so if I'm giving the program back another 80, now I'm talking about maybe 360, 350, somewhere around there, that I'm utilizing for the rest of the athletic department, period. And I think that's a good measuring stick in terms of where to start. So if I'm getting 500,000, I'm giving 80 back to the particular program. Okay, I'm utilizing another 80 in terms of the travel and meals and hotels, that sort of thing. If I got 340 left or whatever that comes out to be, I can sprinkle to the non-revenue sports, that sort of thing. Then I've considered that cycle to be successful.
Right. Now, Willard, with that formula in place, that would mean that you and the president have agreed that you can keep the guarantee money. That means that the guarantee money is not going to the general fund.
Yes. And for the
So
most
now,
part,
Willard,
the most part, Coach Pettaway, for the most part, and I've heard what you've said in terms of how things have gone at at A&M, that sort of thing. For the most part, when the budgets are formulated, okay, that 500,000 in terms of the guarantee, that 500,000 is already in the athletic budget. That's part of the athletic budget, like 500,000 in terms of guarantee from men's basketball, 80,000 in terms of guarantee from women's basketball, X amount from football revenue, X amount from football guarantees. All those things are already formulated into the budget. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm already spending off that money even before it's come in.
Right. Now, Willard, I promise you, that part of it I understand. But my point is, it's not happening at all of the SWAC schools.
That's true. That's true.
Because I do know now at Alabama A&M, I don't know what percentage they're getting now, but athletics is getting the opportunity to keep some of the money. Whereas before, it was zero.
Yeah. But see, they should be able to keep it all because it should be built into the budget. These are dollars that are built into the budget. So if I built 500,000 in terms of guarantees into the budget, okay, but you only give me 300,000, don't be mad when I'm in the red 200,000 because you've taken 200,000 from me that was already built into the budget from the guarantee.
Right.
All things are not equal, though.
No, they're not at all.
And I think that was my point. Maybe I didn't do a good job of it before you guys came on with Charles was talking about accelerated salaries and but all things are not equal. If all things were equal, that'd be a different story. But we just got to do, and I say we just got to do better when we can do better, and when we can and we do better, we should do better.
And I go back. I want to go back to one thing, Carlos, while it's on my mind. If there was an issue with Coach Dooley, and I'm just putting that out there for public consumption, if there was an issue with that where we did not see eye to eye in terms of direction of the program, and I have given him a directive that he needs to do X, Y, and Z, okay, in terms of the program moving forward. And he has told me he's not going to do that. Then this is not a buyout situation. This is a I'm firing you situation.
Right.
Because you're being insubordinate.
Correct.
Therefore, there's no reason for me to pay the remainder of your contract, okay, because you haven't met the stipulations that your supervisor has put forward in terms of, the supervision of your particular program. So if things have gotten to that point, then there's got to be a way for me to get out from under that 620,000 or whatever it is that's left on the 2 years of that contract. If we're not seeing eye to eye in terms of direction of the program, and I've given him a directive in terms of the things that I need to see and things of that nature, and he has decided he is not going to follow that directive, then that's, for me, that's a ground for termination of some sort. Now, if I want to, fight the lawsuit that he's going to file, that sort of thing, then, so be it. And, probably wind up paying half or what have you, that sort of thing. But no way he gets the final 2 years of that contract if he's told me he's not going to do the things that I need for him to do, okay, in terms of the supervision of the program. And I'm your supervisor.
Right.
Well, apparently something went on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back to my question. What would it have made it for you? And I think you've answered it. In year 2,
Mm-hmm.
to move in a different direction, So eventually, I guess it will come out, the particulars.
Sooner or later.
They meaning Southern, they have moved on. Let's switch gears here again. I think we've lost Charles. I don't know if he'll be able to make it back on that. But Coach Pettaway, basketball, in-season tournament, finals tonight, Indiana and Los Angeles. I'm going to be honest with you, brutally honest. Milwaukee and Boston got knocked out. I was shocked.
Right.
But it just proves on paper, everybody looks good, but you got to actually execute it. And now you've got the Lakers and Indiana. Nobody talked about Indiana, but just quiet.
But they better talk about it because that's the number 1 offense in the NBA now. They're putting up more points than anybody. That's a very young team. They got young legs. But tonight, I'm going to go with the Lakers strictly because I think that LeBron will elevate his teammates to win the game because, he's been there, done that kind of thing. And so, Charles, I think that the Lakers will be the fate. Well, I think they will come out on top tonight. But I think it's going to be a struggle because Indiana, they play so well offensively. And they got so many weapons.
Right.
Hollywood, man, those guys fly all over the place, man. And they fear no one. So Coach, they put up a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points too now.
Well, Coach, what you're saying is I agree with you, but I'm looking at Charles, and you remember he stated this in-season tournament. He's a traditionalist.
Right. He doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it, but guess what? They probably need to, instead of saying in-season tournament champion, name it after somebody. But from all accords, from what I'm hearing so far,
it's a success.
This has been a success. And see, that's again, Charles is a traditionalist. I'm going to pick on him. He's a traditionalist. He doesn't want to change. He wants the athletic department in the 90s mode.
No.
You have to adjust. And I think it's a good idea. Go ahead, Charles. You can defend yourself.
Why is it that the Lakers and I'm just going to say right now is Indiana and LA? Why is it that the Lakers and New Orleans, why is it that that matchup just can't stand on its own with the mega stars on that court? Why do you have to have in-season tournament by it? I'm interested in the matchup regardless of what it's called. And I read some on social media the other day that said if the Lakers win, are you going to hang a banner up in the arena, in-season tournament champs? And the Lakers said, hell no, we're not going to do that. You did. I mean, come on. I understand why the NBA is doing it. I agree.
$500,000.
$500,000. I got 500,000 reasons why I like it.
I get it. I understand it is all about money and ratings.
I need a drink on this one.
I understand. I get it. I'm just not personally. I'm just not for it. I just think that I know why the NBA is doing it. They want these early season games to get the wow factor.
Right.
You want the sizzle. You want the ratings early in the season. It's an 82-game season. No one's really paying attention to the NBA right now. It's all about the NFL, the college football playoff, Florida State, all that stuff. I get it. But you don't necessarily. Now, I am for the play-in tournament. I am for that because that's what it's about. It's about making the playoffs and hosting that trophy. But this in-season tournament, you take the in-season tournament away. I'm interested in the Lakers, Giannis versus LeBron, regardless of what's in front of it. I just like good basketball. I don't need the in-season tournament. Just play the games. These matchups, these mega stars, they're going to attract ratings anyway. they're going to attract ratings anyway. Boston and Philadelphia, game 1, game 21. You're still going to have a sellout crowd. People are still going to watch. So look, I understand the money. I get it. But for me personally, as a fan, throw the in-season tournament away. I just want to see the matchup. I want to see the playoffs. Every game's important. I get it. So that's just where I am on it, and I'm standing on it. As they say, I'm standing on business. I'm standing on that one. I'm standing on that one.
Hey, Charles, look at
the playing tournament at the end of the season, and you could throw that one out. But guess what? They decided to keep that in, so now I have to adjust it. Coach Pettaway.
Yes.
EA says, are you concerned about Zion's continued weight issue? Because here was the point.
Yes.
The Lakers and New Orleans, people get on me about why I'm not more supportive of the Pelicans. One, because the Heat is my team since 2006. So how about that answer?
Yep.
But then also, here was the opportunity to go against LeBron and Anthony Davis. And quite honestly, as the national prognosticators stated, they didn't think he showed up. And this was the excellent platform to do that. Go ahead, Coach Pettaway.
Well, I said this last year. The people in his entourage, the people that he trusts, the people that he believes in, they got to get to him. They got to let him know that his body is his temple. His body is what's making the money for him. And if he's going to continue to make money, they've got to do something about that, man. Whatever it is, whether it's through the diet, whether it's through working out, they got to do something because his body's going to continue to break down. He's not going to have the career that he expects to have if they don't start taking into consideration that he is too heavy right now. He's not in shape. No, I won't say heavy. He's not in shape to play the game of basketball the way it should be played on this level. And I just think that somebody's got to reach it. It's obvious that the other thing is he might be doing this to force his way out of New Orleans too now.
Yeah.
But the problem is on the flip side, the new people are going to say, wait, we don't need this. If he didn't do it for New Orleans, he's not going to do it for us. So it's a struggle, man. But the right person has to get to him, man. I don't think the right person has got to him.
Well, according to reports, Coach Pettaway, the organization has tried to surround him and has tried to enforce that message. Right. Hey, you got to lose weight. But according to reports, he's not listening to anybody.
Correct.
He's not listening to anybody, according to what you're reading out there, which is a sad testimony because this dude, when his weight is under control, is unstoppable. But he's not. I don't think he's listening to anyone. He's making $50 million a year. Hey, if he wants to move on, if they want to move on from him, fine. But I don't think I think Zion's not listening to anybody. I think he's just young and just out there, and just whichever way it falls, it's gonna fall.
Right. He's not making the right decision when it comes to his future on the court, because that once your body leaves, it's over with, man. That's your money maker, and he's not taking advantage of it. And the people around him are not getting it. They have not been able to get in his ear.
Yeah. Well, Carlos, I want to ask you. Well, I want to make a comment. I know we got cut off there. I don't know what happened here at the arena, but you were talking about making money as far as the SWAC and basketball. To me, it's two things, and I think the pressure is on both sides. Football is the moneymaker, so football funds all the sports. So we got to make more money with football. Now we talk about guarantee games. Number one, playing up, getting these big guarantees, Southern LSU, Grambling LSU, all that. Next year we're playing Vanderbilt. That's our guarantee game in football next year. But I think we got to make more money at home, sell out our stadiums at home, which we did have some of that this year. And then in basketball, we got to get better attendance for our SWAC basketball games. I think that will help a little bit, help some. And that's something that's not happening either. For these Monday and Saturday games at home, other than the rivalry games, you see the attendance and how much we're charging and all that. I know that's another delicate debate, but those two things I think have to happen in order for basketball and other sports to kind of benefit from it financially. More in football and then more home games and more attendance, more revenue at our home games. You got 9 of them in conference for sure. If we can get 2 or 3 out of conference, which is hard to do, we got 3 of them for our women. We don't have any for our men. We have 1 with Xavier and Miles College, but that's it. I think we got to get those things going too in order to help drive the revenue wheel for basketball, in my opinion.
Well, in my opinion, we've kind of had this discussion before, and Willa, you can jump in on this as well. Again, what incentive, what enthusiasm, what other adjectives I can use, if I'm going to not see my team because they're on the road for a whole month, mind you.
And
Southern men won against UNLV, and they won against Mississippi State on the road. But I haven't seen them physically until this Saturday.
And it goes back, Carlos, again to infrastructure. Just like I was stating that you need the person, the fundraising person that's going to go out there on the doors, that sort of thing. You got to have a good marketing crew. That's going to be able to help drum up and come up with ideas in order to, try to increase home attendance, that sort of thing. You gotta have those infrastructural things in place if you're going to see the fruit of the labor. You gotta do that. You gotta do that, and we're not doing that. What we do is, as Coach Pettaway was saying, and as Charles was saying, we rather go ahead and play those 10 games, 11 games on the road, simply because, we're going to make more money off of those games than we would playing Miles College at home. So we'll make more going to Southeast Louisiana on a guarantee than we would playing Miles or somebody at home. So let's take the path of least resistance, and go ahead and get the easy money, as opposed to having the structure in place in terms of, our marketing department, things of that nature, really putting together, some pizzazz and things like that in terms of trying to draw people, to our arenas and things like that. But like I said, we got to work on the nuts and bolts aspect of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, because we all have good ideas, but do we have the monies, or are we going to be able to put the monies in place in order to fund those ideas that we're trying to get across?
Yeah, because somebody, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and we've talked about this years ago. For example, Coach Pettaway, Charles, and Wheeler. What about, and I know it takes money to invest in it, but just for instance, say just throw this out. A Bobby Fields Legacy basketball tournament at the F.G. Clark Activity Center. Do I have to invite Alabama and Ole Miss to that? No, but someone on the area of compatibility, as far as, you could bring in an Austin P. You could bring in a Murray State, some other HBCUs, and then develop that tournament. Do we look at 1 year and then say, well, okay, it didn't meet attendance, then we get rid of it? You got to grow it. My question is, Will and Coach Pettaway, is that something that our schools could do more of if planned right and then invested right, instead of going once again? I'm not, and I'm talking about myself, I'm not enthusiastic at all if my team is 2-10. And yeah, they've gotten a lot of money, but we haven't seen them. It's a blowout. But I'll hear this. It's based on winning in the conference. Duh, I know that. Yeah. But I want to kind of get into to the swing of it. Come in with 4 or 5 victories, a couple of upsets. But anyway,
that Carlos, that's why we keep saying this term. You got to have balance. I think you got to have the home games. You you got to engage your fan base before the conference season, because you can lose your fan base by the time January rolls around. So that's why I think it has to happen through the administration. Everybody has to come to an agreement.
get on the same
We
page.
need a balance. We need balance on our schedule, and this is what we have to do. We're gonna play some of these guaranteed games, but we're also gonna have money set aside so that we can bring some people in here too. We're gonna have home games. You got to have a home schedule, I think, before the conference game. That's for your fan base and also for the mental aspect of your players. See, that's a side that we don't look at a lot. The mental aspect. Mentally, what are these kids going through when they face some of these Power 5 schools night in and night out? How is that affecting them mentally? Has anybody taken the time to even think about that? I have. I always told my administration, we're not treating our kids fair when you tell me, or if you tell me that I got to go out and play all these games. That's not fair to the kids.
How about this, guys? And we used to joke about this years ago. The AD, Will, you'll appreciate this one. The AD and the president, and we include people of influence. How about you guys are out getting corporate sponsorships, scholarships, have, as you stated earlier, associate AD that has a specialization in marketing and branding, and have them do the work, and it's a team effort with a little balance, and we come back and we present a better picture for the fans, because ultimately no fans, no student athletes, no students, no college, no great atmosphere. We got to change. We got to be able to do that and work together. But I'll be, you know what, if I got to sit 10 years from now, we're still talking about, well, come on, ADs. I'm calling you out again. Help out.
Right.
Help out. Don't put it all on the basketball coach
right.
and the football coaches to get things done.
Carlos, in closing, that's why I always wanted the SWAC MEAC challenge in basketball. That was part of me trying to say that, hey, we need to do our own preseason tournament. Let's do this. Let's rotate it between the SWAC and the MEAC, and let's get it done. That was the purpose of me trying to kick that off the ground.
Mm-hmm. And a person like Wheeler would help you. I think Wheeler can be reached. He's a little tough now, but he's a little tough, and he speaks his mind. And we'll appreciate that. 4 minutes left in closing. Again, Southern and UAPB, big wins, non-conference. The Southern football coach, oh wow. The search continues. Maybe this time next week we'll have some clarity. We'll have a coach and play. And I'll say this. I'm not against somebody who's interim now on assistant being given the opportunity to elevate and take over. I want to be consistent. I always said that. You can go that route as well. And then FAMU captures the 2023 SWAC football championships. An early prediction. This time next week, the Celebration Bowl is going on. Who do you got? Charles?
I got FAM. Oh, I got FAM. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
FAMU against Howard. Wheeler?
I'm going with FAMU, but I also think that Howard has a puncher's chance. Mm-hmm. Simply because they've had a lot of time to prepare and get ready for this particular game.
Right. What you got, Charles?
I don't think it would be an instance where FAMU just comes in and walk over them. I think Howard is probably feeling good from a preparation point of view, from the time spent in terms of getting prepared for FAMU. And so I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think FAMU pulls it out.
Charles?
I'm rolling with my buddy Willie Simmons, and I'm rolling with the Rattlers. They've had a terrific season. Let's get this second win in the Celebration Bowl for the SWAC. Go FAMU. Go Brian Fulford.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I saw that, Brian. You snuck that in. Go Pacers. in the NBA. Again, I will support the next hire for Southern University, but I have to put an asterisk there. If it's a celebrity coach, if it's Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, I'm being facetious there. I can't, in good conscience, I can't go with that. I can't go with that. Once again, my focus is getting the information out, and this show, I think, did that today. We gave our opinions. We had a lively discussion about everything, but I'm always like this. I want to be right first instead of being the person that always tries to break the story first,
right,
and not necessarily get it right. 2 minutes left. Closing comments on anything. Coach Pettaway, you first. Wheeler.
Okay, well, the reason why I'm going with FAMU is because I think Coach Simmons has already coached in the MEAC. He knows their different styles, and that's why I think FAMU is going to come out on top, because not only is he a great coach, he's got a great team behind him.
I will state that salaries in terms of football coaches are kind of getting out of control. And somehow got to pull that back in. I think infrastructurally, we need to put more money into our programs in terms of assistant coaches pools and, things of that nature. I think those things have to be front and center. And, if I'm going to hire a coach SWAC-wise, how much national recognition can he give me, especially because we're not doing things on a national level. We're not participating in the playoffs, things of that nature. So how much national recognition will that coach be able to give me, moving forward? And so if I'm going to tie dollars into aspects such as that, then I have to think of those things, when I'm doing the negotiating and things of that nature.
All right.
On that note, I'll save my commentary for next week. I've got 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Charles, Wheeler, Van, Coach Pettaway, we appreciate you, Melanie, producing today's show. Great conversation going on in the chat room. Continue the conversation until next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, peace and God bless.